The wind blew softly across the ruined royal palace of Velary Prime. But for the first time in years, it didn't feel like death. It felt like peace. Lysera stood on the broken steps where her parents had once ruled. Behind her stood Elias, watching. In silence, as thousands of Velary people gathered across the city below, old flags were raised. Children laughed again. For a moment, the galaxy seemed still. A week had passed since the final battle. The last Zenth outpost on the planet had fallen. Their forces had retreated, but Lysera knew peace would not last forever. I feel like the galaxy is just waiting, she said quietly. Elias leaned against the wall beside her. They are waiting to see what you do next. She turned to him. I never asked for this. I was just a weak girl in a cage. And now, he asked. She looked up at the twin moons rising above. Now I'm the voice of a whole people. That night, the Council of the Free System sent a message. They had seen what Lysera had done, how she had freed her planet, united survivors, and fought the Zenth Empire head-on. They were ready to listen. They were ready to help. But only if Lysera would lead. A great hall was built from the ruins of the old palace. A meeting was held, elders, warriors, builders, and even alien representatives from other worlds who came to see the one called the Flame Princess. Lysera wore a simple robe, not armor. No crown, just the pendant of her family. She stood before them all. I was not born strong, she said. I was born scared. I was born small. I was born forgotten. But one human gave me a choice. Not to be his prize, but to be his partner. She looked at Elias. He gave me a chance to rise. Now her voice grew stronger. So I rise. Not for power. I rise for those who never had the chance. I rise for the broken, the outcasts, the forgotten. I am Lysera of Velary, and I will never kneel again. The hall erupted with cheers. She was no longer just a princess. She was becoming something more. In the weeks that followed, Lysera created something new, a united group called the Phoenix Alliance, not an empire, not a kingdom, an alliance of survivors. Planets once crushed under Zenth rule now raised their own banners. Inspired by her courage, Velary Prime became a new center of hope and strength, and through it all, Elias remained at her side. But the Zenth Empire wasn't done. The Emperor himself, cold and ancient figure known as Tarkith the Eternal, sent one final message. It appeared in the sky like fire. You stole what was broken. You've built what will burn. I am coming, Lysera, and I will end your little dream. Elias frowned. He's not bluffing. Lysera's expression was steady. Then let him come. Preparations began. New armor was forged. Fighters trained harder than ever. Old wreckage was turned into ships. The Phoenix Alliance knew the final battle would decide everything. But Lysera had one more thing to do. She returned to the cave where Elias had first taken her after freeing her. The fire pit was still. There, the broken chain too. She sat beside it. This is where I truly woke up, she said. Elias sat across from her. I remember. He tried to stab me with a stick. She laughed softly. We're very annoying. I still am. At each other. Then Lysera grew quiet. If I fall tomorrow, she said, promise me something. Elias leaned forward. You're not going to fall. Still promise. He nodded. Anything. Keep the flame alive. I will. They sat in silence for a while, the stars above them glowing like soft embers. The next day, the Zenth Empire arrived. The sky turned black. Their ships were unlike anything seen before, massive, dark. Humming with power, Tarkith's flagship was a floating fortress shaped like a serpent. But the Phoenix Alliance didn't run. They rose. Lysera led from the front. Her armor now glowed with blue light, her wakened power fully in control. Elias stood beside her in the command center. Guiding squadrons and strike teams, the battle in space was fierce. But on the ground, it was worse. The Zenth unleashed biomonsters, machines of pure rage, and elite shadow troopers. But the Valari had something more powerful. Hope, Lysera faced. General Druck, Tarkith's second command on the ruins of the old academy. He laughed. You're just a child pretending to be strong. She didn't answer. She just fought. Her sword shattered his weapon. Her will crushed his pride. And when he fell, even the sky seemed to tremble. In orbit, Elias found himself in a dogfight. The Valkyrie was hit badly. Warning lights blinked. Flames licked the hull, but he refused to abandon the mission. Get me close to Tarkith's ship, he ordered. He wasn't going to let the Emperor reach the surface. Meanwhile, Lysera reached the heart of the city. Tarkith had landed. He stood tall and armored in ancient black steel. His face was hidden behind a mask of bone. So this is the girl who dared to stand against time, he growled. I'm not just a girl, she said. I'm the voice of those you silenced. They clashed. The battle between Lysera and Tarkith shook the city. He was stronger, older, more experienced. But Lysera was faster, sharper. Her spirit refused to break. Their swords clashed again, and again, Tarkith tried to crush her with fear, with fire, the tricks of old magic and lost science. But Lysera had something more powerful than all of that purpose. As Tarkith tried to land the final blow, she dodged barely. She dropped her sword, but instead of falling, she stepped forward and she grabbed his weapon with her bare hands. Her eyes burned bright blue. This ends now. She shattered the blade. Then she drove her fist through his armor, and with one last scream, the Emperor fell, above Elias had, steered the Valkyrie into a dying dive straight at Tarkith's retreating ships. He jumped out moments before impact. The explosion lit the sky like a second sun, but Elias survived barely when the smoke cleared. The Zenth Empire had no leader, no army, no more fear to spread. The war was over, Year passed. The galaxy began to heal. New planets joined the Phoenix Alliance. Old ones found peace. Elias now worked as an ambassador, helping rebuild trade routes and train new defense forces. But Lysera, she had become something different, something bigger. The people called her Flame Queen, not because she ruled with fire, but because she had survived the fire and became stronger one day. She stood at the top of the rebuilt palace on Valari Prime. Elias joined her, thinking about the past. He asked, she nodded, about how far we came. He smiled. You're not that small, scared girl anymore. She looked at him, then at the stars. No, she said, I'm not. Then she turned toward the great hall where leaders from across the galaxy waited. She walked forward, strong, calm, unbreakable. She was no longer the prize. She was the path forward. The galaxy watched and followed. The stars above Korn 6 burned brighter than usual, but the people below didn't see beauty in the sky. They saw danger, because dozens of Zenth Empire warships were heading their way. Lysera stood at the edge of a cliff, her cloak blowing in the wind. Her armor now bore the symbol of the Valari. Phoenix, a new emblem she had designed. Rebirth through fire. Elias stood beside her, holding his scanner. They're not sending a small team this time. It's a full assault fleet. Heavy destroyers, dropships, groundwalkers. Lysera's face was calm. Then this time, we don't just survive. We win. The Valari had changed in just a few weeks. Thanks to Lysera's training and Ilias's experience, they were no longer afraid. Their bodies were stronger, their eyes more focused. Even children learned to fight. Elders helped forge weapons from the metal ruins around them. Tunnels were turned into traps. Streets became defense lines. Every part of the old mining colony, it became a battlefield waiting to be tested. Lysera walked through the camp each night. She spoke to every soldier. She remembered every name. "You are the heart of Valari," she told them. "And our heart no longer breaks, burns." The next day, the Zenth Empire arrived. The sky darkened as their ships blocked the sun. Metal monsters dropped from orbit. Explosions shook the ground, and the battle began. Lysera led the first charge. She moved like a shadow, across the battlefield fast. Silent, deadly. She used everything Elias had taught her. She dodged plasma fire. She broke rifles with her bare hands. Her eyes glowed with that strange blue light that had grown stronger with every fight. Wherever she went, the Valari followed with fierce courage. Elias, with a small team of human allies and old warbets, attacked the flanks. He used smart traps and clever tactics to slow the Zenth advance. They were outnumbered, outgunned, but they were not outmatc. By the third day, the Zenth commander sent a message. It was broadcast across all coms Lysera of Valari. "This is General Karthos of the Zenth Empire. Surrender now. We will spare your people. Fight, and we will erase you forever." Lysera stood in front of a camera and answered with only one word: "No." Later, she and Elias sat in a small command room, looking at old maps. Elias rubbed his tired eyes. "They're moving toward the old generator station. If they take it, they can shut down our defense grid." Lysera leaned over the map. "Then that's where I'll go." "It's suicide," Elias warned. "You'll be cut off." She looked him in the eyes. "If I don't go, we lose everything." That night, before leaving, Lysera walked to the edge of the camp. Dozens of Valari soldiers stood in silence. Some of them cried. Some stood straight. She raised her sword in the air. "This is our last night as prey," she said loudly. "After this, no one will ever call us weak again." They raised their fists. They shouted her name. "Lysera, Lysera, Lysera." She left alone, moving like a ghost toward the generator station. Inside, she found dozens of Zenth soldiers already securing the area. She didn't wait. She attacked. A flash of blue, a wave of motion. One by one, they fell. Her strength now seemed unnatural: jumps over 10 meters, punches that cracked armor, speed that no one could follow. And yet, she was still Lysera. Her focus, her heart, her memory of her people stayed strong in every move. The battle inside the station lasted for 2 brutal hours. At the end, she stood over the enemy commander. He begged for mercy. She offered it, but only after making him shut down the device that could kill her people's power. "Tell your emperor," he whispered. "The flame has not burned out." Back at the camp, Elias and the others had held the line, but barely. When Lysera returned, covered in blood and light, the defenders cheered. She raised her arms high. "We do not run anymore," she shouted. "We stand, we rise. And now, take back our world." Days later, a message arrived, a secret one, sent from deep space. It was from a group of surviving Valari, elders hidden. For years on an old starship, they had been watching, and they wanted to meet Lysera. The Valkyrie flew through asteroid fields and radiation storms. Finally, they arrived at a hidden station built into a dead moon. The elders greeted her with wide eyes and slow bows. "You are not what we expected," one said. "You are more." Lysera walked with strength and pride, but she still bowed to them out of respect. "I did not save our people alone," she said. "I had help." Elias stood quietly in the back, watching. The elders shared old data, maps, files, secrets of the Valari dynasty. One of them showed her something strange: ancient bloodline records. "You were not born ordinary," the elder said. "You carry the Kirill gene, a rare code passed down through royal blood. It lies dormant until activated. Activated how? Elias asked. The elder answered through pain. Pressure. Survival. They looked at Lysera. You are not just our princess. You are a living weapon and evolution born through fire. Back on the ship, Lysera sat alone in the dark. Elias joined her. Do you believe them? She asked. I believe what I've seen, he said. She looked at her hands. Am I still the same person? He nodded yes. But now you can fight. For who you are, they set a new course to the last known coordinates of Valari Primed, the lost homeworld. The Zenth had burned it, poisoned it, and left it to rot. But Lysera wanted to return, not for revenge, but for rebirth. The planet was worse. Then they feared dead oceans, black skies, cracked cities, but small signals remained. Lost survivors. The Zenth had left guards beasts and drones to keep the world. Lifeless. But Lysera and Elias landed anyway. With them came a full Valari force new warriors, survivors, and even children ready to rebuild. They fought their way. Through ruined cities, every step forward was a battle. But Lysera did not stop. Not when lasers cut through the air, not when old friends fell, not even when her armor cracked. And her blood spilled, she kept moving. Toward the royal palace. Now just a broken tower on a shattered cliff inside. She found the old throne, the place where her mother and father once ruled. She stood before it and knelt. I'm sorry I couldn't save you, she whispered. Then she stood up again. But I will save what you left behind. The final Zenth commander arrived with his elite guard. He laughed when he saw her. A broken world for a broken girl. But Lysera didn't speak. She stepped forward, and she fought. The battle was like a storm. Elias watched from a high point with his sniper rifle, taking down enemies where he could, but this was Lysera's fight. She moved like no one heed. Ever seen her power was no longer just skill. It was will made into force. She beat the commander, not with rage, but with justice, and when he fell, the last symbol of the Zenth's control fell with him. The Valari homeworld was free. Lysera stood in the middle of the ruined throne room, Valari. Soldiers filled the streets below, cheering. The sun broke through the clouds for the first time in years. Elias walked beside her. You did it? He said. She looked at him with quiet pride. No, we did. The battle with the Zoric mercenaries was just the beginning. Word spread fast across the galaxy. The weak Valari princess, once mocked and forgotten, had taken down trained bounty hunters with her bare hands. Some called it luck. Others began to worry. But Elias Vorn knew the truth. Lysera was changing. Her speed, strength, and awareness had grown far beyond what was normal for her species. It wasn't just training. It was something deeper - evolution. After the attack, Elias and Lysera left Archelize 9 in his stealth ship, the Valkyrie. The Valari needed help. Their homeworld had been destroyed years ago. Most survivors were scattered, living as slaves or refugees. We need to find them, Lysera said as she looked at the stars. If even one of them is still out there. I have to try, Elias agreed. We'll start with the outer systems. The Empire's grip is weaker there. They arrived at a neutral trading station called Torin's Resta Place, full of smugglers, merchants, spies, and outlaws. It wasn't safe. But it was a good place to gather information. Elias gave Lysera a hooded cloak to wear. We can't let everyone see you yet, he warned. Too many eyes, too many enemies. She smiled beneath the hood. Let them come. Inside the station, they moved through crowded markets filled with alien voices and strange smells. Lysera was focused. She walked with purpose. They visited old contacts of Elias, human and alien. After hours of searching, they found a lead. A half-blind trader named Jex whispered, I heard of a group of Valari, hiding in the ruins of Corin 6, old mining colony, abandoned, dangerous. Thank you, Lysera said, placing a small bag of credits in his hand. Jex looked up at her face and blinked. You're her, aren't you? Elias stepped forward. Keep it quiet. Jex nodded fast. Of course, but be careful. Someone else is already looking for you. As they left the market, Lysera sensed something. Her new instincts were sharper than ever, she whispered. We're being followed. Lias gave a quick glance. How many? 2 in front, 1 behind. Ambush. She nodded. Let me handle it. The attackers struck in an alley. One pulled a blade. Another raised a shock blaster. Before they could act, Lysera moved. She spun low, kicked the blaster away, grabbed the blade hand of the second attacker, and twisted it with brutal efficiency. The third ran only to be stopped by Elias's stun. Round a quick search revealed their ID chips. They weren't random criminals. They were Black Sun Bounty Hunters elite trackers, hired by the largest galactic powers. The message was clear. Lysera had become a threat. Back on the ship, Elias scanned the bounty network. A flashing red poster appeared. Wanted Lysera, a Valari reward. 10 million credits. Dead or alive, her picture stared back from the screen taken from the Wargames arena. But this time, her name came with a title, The Flame of Valari. Lysera stared at the screen silently. They're afraid. Yes, Elias said they should be. They left for Corin 6 following the lead. It was a dead planet, broken buildings, empty skies, cold wind. But in the deep underground tunnels, they found signs of life, small camps, old symbols, and finally, people. Valari survivors stepped out of the shadows, thin, tired, and wary. Their eyes widened when they saw her. Princess Lysera? An elder woman gasped. Lysera stepped forward. Yes. I've come to bring you home. The people dropped to their knees in shock and hope. Many wept. Elias stood behind her, quiet and proud. He had seen her grow from a frightened girl in a cage to this a leader. The Valari survivors told their stories. They had escaped during the fall of their planet. Many had died. The rest were hiding, hunted, and broken. We thought you were dead, a young girl said. We thought we were alone. Lysera's voice was strong. You're not alone anymore. I've changed. And now I will change our future. She stayed for 2 days among them, listening, helping, comforting. She taught them how to fight, using the same drills Elias taught her. Old warriors among them rose again. Young ones learned quickly. The fire that once burned in the Valari race was returning. But peace didn't last. On the 3rd night, ships appeared in the sky. The Zenth Empire, the same that had conquered Valari, had found them. Dozens of soldiers dropped from the clouds. Metal boots, cold helmets, plasma rifles. Elias looked at the scanner. Too many for us to fight head-on. Lysera put on her armor crafted from the hides of beasts she had slain on Arkalysne. Her eyes glowed faintly again. No more hiding, she said. We stand. We fight. Elias handed her a sword. Together, the battle began in the tunnels. Lysera led the defense. She moved like a storm, dodging shots, breaking weapons, striking fast. The Valari followed her with new courage. She didn't command with fear. She inspired. Elias led the flank, using traps and explosives to slow the enemy. The Zenth soldiers were trained, but they weren't ready for her. One by one, they fell by. Sunrise, the survivors stood victorious. The enemy commander was captured. He was brought to Lysera, beaten and bloody. He stared up at her and laughed. You think this changes anything? You're still just a broken race? Lysera looked him in the eye. Then how did we defeat you? The commander went silent. She let him live, but made sure he sent a message back. Tell the Empire Valari has risen. News of the battle reached every corner of the galaxy. Alien leaders watched in shock. A princess who was once thrown away had now become a warrior. Queen, some feared her, some admired her, and some wanted her dead. In a dark chamber on the Zenth capital, the Emperor growled in anger. She was supposed to die in that cage, he hissed. Now she's becoming a symbol. His advisor bowed. We can send an assassin, a specialist. Silent and quick. The Emperor shook his head. No, we'll crush her with force. before she becomes something we cannot stop. I pressed A. Button. Fleet orders were given. A full invasion force prepared to launch. Back on the ship, Liasan Lysera watched new Valari recruits train on Corin 6. I never thought I'd see this again, she whispered. You made it happen, Elias. Said she looked at him. No, we made it happen. They stood together in silence, but they both knew. The real war had just begun. The jungle of Archelies 9 did not care who you were. Prince or prisoner, soldier or scientist, if you were weak, you died. Captain Elias Vorn knew this planet well. Years ago, he trained here as a young soldier. The air was heavy, but the heat was thick. Every sound in the trees could mean danger. But now, he wasn't here to train himself. He was here to teach Lysera how to survive. It had been 2 weeks since they arrived. Lysera woke up each morning before sunrise. Her muscles ached. Hands were blistered. Her legs shook. But she kept moving. Elias trained her slowly but firmly. Balance first, he said. Then speed, then strength. At first, she hated it. She slipped during every movement drill. She panicked when the trees rustled. Her soft feet bled from sharp rocks. But every time she fell, Elias helped her back up. Every time she cried, he said only one thing. Again. One day, Lysera stood on a rock with her arms outstretched. She was trying to hold balance while strong jungle winds blew against her body. The rock was small. One wrong move, and she would fall into a muddy pit below. Why are we doing this? She asked, frustrated. To teach you control, Elias replied from below. Your body is weak now. But if your mind is strong, your body will follow. She took a shaky breath. Her arms were tired. Her legs trembled. Don't look down, Elias warned. Too late. She looked tanned, slipped. But instead of crashing down, she twisted her body in the air and landed in the mud with a roll. She stood up. Soaked and shivering but alive, she laughed. So did Elias. Good, he said. Next time, stay on the rock. At night, around the fire, Elias cooked strange jungle meat while Lysera cleaned her wounds. Your people, she asked. How did they become so strong? Elias poked the fire with a stick. We were weak once. We lost wars. We destroyed our own planet. But then we learned something important. Lysera tilted her head. What? Elias looked at her seriously. But real strength isn't about being born powerful. It's about refusing to stay weak. She thought about those words all night. The next morning, she woke up before Elias. He found her running laps around the camp. Her steps were still awkward, but her face was focused. By the 4th week, Lysera was able to walk 10 kilometers without stopping. She could throw a spear, light a fire, and track footsteps in the mud. One night, as Elias prepared weapons, Lysera returned to camp carrying something large. He looked up and saw the body of a jungle predator on her shoulder. It had for eyes and long fangs. It was twice her size. I didn't mean to kill it, she said, panting. It attacked me. I used the spear the way you taught me. Elias stood up slowly. He walked over to the dead creature and examined the wound. Straight through the perfect strike, he whispered. He looked at her. Something was changing. Her arms had more shape now. Her posture had improved. But more than that, her eyes were sharper, brighter. You're growing stronger, he said. Lysera looked down at her hands. She felt it too. Later that night, as the rain fell, Lysera stared into the fire. She remembered her life before the war, silken robes, golden towers, gentle music, a life of peace, protected and soft. I used to think I was special, she said quietly. Royal blood, but I couldn't save my people. Couldn't save my parents. I couldn't even protect myself. Elias didn't say anything. I'm not sure who I am now, she added. You're becoming who you were meant to be, he finally said the next week. They moved deeper into the jungle. Elias led her into a narrow canyon filled with natural traps, falling rocks. Unstable ground, hidden predators. He didn't guide her. He followed her. Use everything I've taught you, he said. Your instincts, your memory, your new strength. She nodded and entered alone. Hours passed. Elias waited on the other side, near a small cliff. Suddenly, a shadow moved behind him. He turned, but it was Lysera. Standing tall and proud, she had made it through, and she had taken down another predator along the way. You were watching me the whole time, weren't you? She said with a half-smile. Of course, he said. But you didn't need me. That night, they climbed to a high hill. They looked out over the vast jungle. Stars filled the sky above. Do you miss home? She asked Elias. Sometimes. He answered, but I think this is where I'm needed. She looked at him. Why me? He turned toward her. Because when I looked at you in that cage, I saw someone the galaxy had given up on. I know what that feels like. Lysera was silent for a moment. Do you think I can really protect my people someday? Elias answered without hesitation. I think you'll protect far more than that. The next morning, a ship flew over their camp. Elias tensed. The ship wasn't human. It belonged to the Zorak Syndicate, a group of mercenaries who sold weapons and slaves to the highest bidder. They landed nearby. A group of 5 heavily armed aliens stepped out. One of them scanned the area and laughed. There she is, he said, the little Velari princess. Lysera froze. They put a bounty on your head, princess, the alien continued. Did you really think hiding in the trees would save you? Elias raised his weapon. She's under my protection, the alien sneered. Then you'll die with her. Before anyone could move, Lysera stepped forward. Let me handle this. Elias looked at her, surprised. You sure? She nodded. Once, then she ran straight at the mercenaries. The leader fired his blaster, but she rolled under it. She leaped into the air and kicked his chest, sending him flying. Another fired. She caught a tree branch and swung above him, landing behind his back. She hit his neck with a stun strike. The others panicked. She was moving too fast, too smart, too strong. In less than 2 minutes, all 5 were on the ground, groaning or unconscious. Elias watched, stunned. Lysera stood in the clearing, her chest rising and falling. Her eyes glowed faintly with blue. Energy. Something deep in her Velari blood was awakening. After the fight, she walked back to Elias. I think they'll send more, she said. Definitely, he replied. They're scared of me. He nodded, and then he said something she would never forget. You were never weak, Lysera. You were just never allowed to grow. That night, as they packed their camp, Lysera looked at the stars again. But this time, she didn't feel small under their light. She felt like she could reach them. The galactic war games had ended. 12 empires had entered the battlefield. Only one stood victorious, Earth. No one had expected a human to win. The others were stronger, faster, and older. Their champions came with centuries of battle experience. The humans had only joined the galaxy's political system 50 years ago. Many thought they were still young apes with guns. But Captain Elias Vorn proved them all wrong. He was not the biggest warrior. He didn't have tentacles, wings, or bioweapons in his blood. But he had something else: strategy, focus, and the will to never give up. Round after round, Elias defeated warlords, beasts, and machines. His armor was scratched, his arms were bleeding. But he never stepped back, and now he stood at the center of the grand arena. A massive alien announcer floated down from the ceiling. Its voice echoed across the stadium. Champion Elias of Earth, you may now choose your prize. A bright blue light surrounded the stage. Prizes were brought forward, one by one. Giant weapons forged in neutron stars. Ships faster than light. Treasures stolen from dead planets. Even slaves or rare beings captured during war. Elias walked past them slowly. The crowd waited. Everyone expected him to choose the gladiator mech of Kratos, or maybe the Starblade of the Zenth Lords. But he stopped. At the very end of the line, she was sitting in a glass cage, small, thin, and barely able to lift her head. A silver tag hung around her neck. Lysera of House Velari, royal blood, Non-combatant. Useless. Her skin was pale blue. Her eyes were dull and tired. She wore a torn gown, once royal, now ruined. She looked more like a broken doll than a princess. The crowd laughed. That's the Valari girl. Their planet fell in the first week. She's not even worth feeding. The Valari are all weak. What would a human want with a dead princess? But Elias looked at her with quiet eyes. He walked up to her cage. The guards nearby raised their weapons. She's not a real prize, one said. Just a leftover from the surrender. Elias ignored them. He tapped the glass gently. Lysera didn't look up. Then he spoke. I choose her. The entire arena went silent. The announcer's voice stuttered. I repeat that, champion. Elias nodded. I choose Lysera Valari. She is my prize. The Galactic Council gasped. The alien emperors began whispering in anger and confusion. He's mocking us. Is he mad? He could have taken weapons of mass destruction. But Elias was serious. He signed the forms. The glass cage opened. Lysera flinched, covering her face like she expected to be hit. Elias took off his long cloak and wrapped it around her shoulders. You're free now, he said quietly. Lysera looked up at him for the first time. Her voice was small. You chose me? He nodded again. Everyone deserves a second chance. They left the arena in silence. No cheering, no celebration. Even back on the human ship, officers were confused. Sir, we could have had a planetary shield generator. That alien girl can barely. Stand, Elias didn't explain. He just carried Lysera to the medbay and stayed beside her bed. For the first few days, Lysera didn't speak much. She was weak, tired, and confused. Machines scanned her body. Her bones were soft. Her muscles barely worked. Her heartbeat was irregular. Dr. Mira, the human medical officer, gave her a full report. Her people evolved on a peaceful world. No war, no predators. She wasn't built for combat. You've basically adopted a porcelain doll, sir. But Elias saw something different. He watched Lysera read books about Earth. She asked smart questions. She started eating more. She walked slowly at first, but every day she got stronger. One evening, Elias brought her to the observation deck. The stars spread across the sky like rivers of light. Lysera stood beside him in silence, and she asked softly, Why did you really choose me? Elias looked at the stars for a long moment before answering. Everyone else saw a broken thing in a cage, but I saw someone who survived everything thrown at her and still breathed. She looked down. I'm not a warrior, my people. He ran. We always ran. Elias smiled slightly, then stopped running. Weeks passed. Elias changed the ship's course. Instead of heading to Earth for celebration, he went to Archelize 9, forgotten jungle world used by old Earth veterans for training. It was wild, dangerous, full of poisonous plants and wild creatures. He landed the ship in a hidden alley. Lysera stared out at the green, alien world in fear. You brought me here to die? No, Elias said, handing her a training suit. I brought you here to live. The first day was a disaster. She tripped over roots. She cried when a giant bug landed on her face. She couldn't lift a training staff. Her breathing gave out after 10 minutes. Elias never yelled. He just helped her up, again and again. Why are you wasting time on me? She asked after falling for the 5th time. Elias wiped the dirt from her cheek. Because you haven't learned how to stand yet. But once you do, I think the galaxy should be afraid. At night they sat by a campfire. Lysera shivered in. The cold, even with the flames, she whispered, you could have had anything in the galaxy. Why me? Elias didn't answer right away. Then he looked her in the eye. Because everyone chose strength, power, and weapons. But I chose the one thing no one else had the courage to believe in: change. As the fire crackled and the stars lit the sky, Lysera stared at her hands. She didn't feel strong. She didn't feel brave. But for the first time in her life, she felt something growing deep inside her. Hope.